you bought the AYN Odin 3 instead of a Steam Deck, this is probably what your experience is going to look like. First of all, you don't have to feel like you made a downgrade. Odin 3 may be less powerful than the deck, but in a lot of ways it does things that even the Steam Deck struggles with. Before we get into the benchmarks, I need to clear something up. They are calling the chip inside it a Dragonwing Q8 instead of 8 Elite. Qualcomm asked AYN to change the name because Snapdragon is now reserved for smartphones, while Dragonwing is their branding for devices like handhelds. Underneath, it is the same silicon architecture, so it will use the same drivers as the 8 Elite. But the Dragonwing Q8 strips out the 5G cellular modem and the camera processing engines. So the chip runs cooler and should have more stable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connections than the regular 8 Elite in phones. So even though the name has changed, it's still the most powerful chip available in an Android handheld. PS2, GameCube, and most older systems run exactly how you would hope. For most retro systems and even Switch games, the AYN Odin 3 is overkill. The hardware has far more power than those platforms need. If you bought an Odin 3 or have been eyeing it for a while, you're probably wondering how well it handles Windows games. With tools like GameNative or BannerHub, Cyberpunk 2077 can run at 720p on low settings with FSR 3 enabled, pushing past 60 frames per second. In my opinion, it is not comfortable to play like this, but it's good for benchmarking. The Witcher 3's DX9 version runs at a locked 60 frames per second at 720p on low or medium settings. The catch is that getting these results requires a bit more setup and tweaking than on a Steam Deck, but the performance itself is far better than many people would expect from an Android handheld. Battery life is another area where you'll immediately notice the difference compared to a Steam Deck. Steam Deck is a fantastic handheld, but when you're playing demanding games, battery disappears pretty fast. The Odin 3 uses a highly efficient ARM chip and a large battery, so long sessions become normal instead of something you have to plan around. For people who travel or commute, this is one of the biggest advantages of choosing the Odin 3. But don't overestimate your Odin 3's capabilities. The Steam Deck still has a clear advantage. On a Steam Deck, you can install a game from your Steam library and start playing with minimal effort. But on Odin 3, some games work surprisingly well out of the box. Others need tweaking. And forget about running low-optimized or heavy games on it. A few games that run well may have visual issues or random bugs. That doesn't mean PC gaming on the Odin 3 is bad. In fact, it's better than it's ever been. You just need to go in with the right expectations. If you're the type of person who enjoys experimenting with settings and trying different fixes, you'll probably have a great time. If you want every PC game to behave exactly like it does on a Steam Deck, you're likely going to run into some frustration. The good news is that the drivers keep improving in this thing. New compatibility tools are arriving faster than ever, and games that seemed impossible on Android a few years ago are now becoming playable. So even though the AYN Odin 3 won't beat the Steam Deck in raw power, it's still one of the best pocketable retro handhelds for people who also want access to a decent number of PC games. But if you want something that fits more naturally into your daily routine, gives you access to excellent emulation, long battery life, and increasingly capable Windows game support when you're willing to do a little tweaking, the Odin 3 makes a very strong case for itself.